What's up, guys? My name's Brandon, and welcome back to Apple Weekly. In this episode, we're going to talk about the latest in the world of iOS, including iOS 16.4 and what to expect next, and when we can finally expect that final release. Now, we're also going to discuss how the iPhone 15 Pro Max could break a record, why prices for that next iPhone might be increasing, amazing features coming to the AirPods, Tim Cook potentially making a fatal career mistake, another sealed iPhone 2G selling at auction, but this time for much less, and more. And as always, if you want to stay updated with all things Apple, make sure to click that subscribe button down below so you don't miss next week's episode. All right, so as always, let's start off with the software side of things. And we're going to start with the latest iOS 16.4 Beta 4. That is the latest release. Of course, the latest public release is still 16.3.1 at the time of recording, but 16.4 should be out relatively soon, and we'll talk about that near the end of this video. But as far as new changes in 16.4 Beta 4, there were not many to begin with. I did cover quite a few in my original What's New video. However, there is something else I wanted to touch on, and that is if you go into Settings, General, About, and then into Coverage, you will notice that the device list now shows actual images of those devices and not just little glyph icons. However, for my AirPods Pro, you can see it does still show the glyph icon. But for my AirPods 3, my AirPods Pro 2, my AirPods Max, and my iPhone 14 Pro Max, it shows an actual image and not just a glyph. One of my favorite features in all of iOS is visual lookup, and that's where you can basically identify, animals, plants, spiders, anything like that by simply swiping up, and then you have the lookup right here, and you could tap on the results and you could see what type of animal it is. Of course, mine right here is a tabby cat. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because it appears that this is becoming available in more regions now. So somebody on Reddit is from the Philippines, and they're just now seeing visual lookup on their device for the first time on 16.4 Beta 4. So if you live in a country where you didn't have access to visual lookup, check now because you might have that available to you. And something else I wanted to touch on is the profile. So as you guys know, I talked about this in my What's New video, but if you go into your settings and then to General and then down to VPN and device management, usually here I have a profile on my beta device, like the device I run my betas on. But after updating to Beta 4, it completely removed my profile just automatically. I didn't press anything, I'm a registered developer and everything, but it just removed that profile. Now, I've not attempted to reinstall this, but I'm sure if I did, it would stay there until the next update and it would probably remove it again. And, I've seen a lot of people report on this, and some people are saying that it depends on if you have a developer account or not, but I can confirm that that is not the case because I am a paid registered developer and mine still disappeared as well. So like I mentioned, I think Apple's doing this to kind of prepare us for iOS 17 and how we're potentially not going to have profiles at all for developers, and we're only going to have profiles for beta testers, public beta testers, I should say. So I'm not sure on that. Don't quote me on that, but that's just kind of the vibe I'm getting from right now. I think that, for paid developers, you're going to just have to have your ID associated with your device, the one that you pay for the developer account with. Now, as far as the performance and battery life goes, I've seen a lot of you guys mention that battery life is not the best, and I agree, it's still not as good as 16.3.1 in my opinion. However, performance, I feel like is right on par with 16.3.1, if not a little bit better. So I'm anticipating that the RC build will be even better than what we have now on the betas, at least in terms of performance. So performance, we should see an improvement over 16.3.1, but as far as battery life goes, we'll have to wait and see, but hopefully we do see an improvement in the RC build. And if you're wondering when that RC build is going to come, well, I'm not too sure yet because we kind of have a dilemma here because as I mentioned before, Mark Gurman is expecting iOS 16.4 in April, and he's usually pretty accurate when it comes to anything related to Apple. He's been wrong before on iOS releases, especially recently, but he still says April for iOS 16.4. However, with a lot of things from Apple releasing on the 28th, it leads me to believe that we could see the RC as early as next week on the week of the 20th. So if we're going with the logical way of doing things, then I think we should see the RC next week and then the final until on the 27th or even on the 28th. However, if we go with, what Mark Gurman is saying, that means we'll see a beta 5 next week, RC the following week, and then a 16.4 final release on the week of April 3rd, if not April 3rd itself. So we'll have to wait and see what happens next week. It should be pretty interesting, but regardless, we should see 16.4 within the next couple of weeks. We also have some other iOS related news. So the New York Times just reported this past week that Apple is working on a new ChatGPT style technology, and 9to5Mac has since corroborated that report. So 9to5Mac says that there was code found in 16.4, the latest 16.4 beta for tvOS, named Bobcat. And this is going to eventually make its way to the rest of Apple's operating systems, at least in the code. And it looks like Apple is currently focused on using this technology to improve Siri. So it's not looking like it's going to be like some new application, some new replacement to Siri. It looks like Apple is just looking to improve Siri. I honestly don't think Apple is trying to compete with ChatGPT in any manner. I know there's been rumors out there for that, but I just don't see Apple working on something like a ChatGPT competitor. The official NBA application has finally received support for live activity. So if you have an iPhone 14 Pro series, you will see that up in the dynamic island. Or if you have any other device, if you go to these three dots here, follow on lock screen, it will show the live activity right there on your lock screen. I think some people are still misconstrued. They still don't understand this feature fully. They think that has to be on the 14 Pro series, but it doesn't. You could have any device to see this on your lock screen right here. And you can see it looks awesome. It updates better, it updates faster than the other applications we've used. And I just really like the look of this live activity here. And on the home screen, if you do have that dynamic island, that is what it looks like up there for the 14 Pro series. If you tap and hold, it will pop out just like so. Apple Maps has expanded its detailed city experience feature to Boston, and you can see now some different landmarks like Fenway Park right here and others. You can see the crazy detail in Apple Maps of Fenway Park. It just looks so awesome in 3D. I mean, you cannot get this with any other Maps application out there. Look how far you can zoom in and see the details of this stadium. It's just so cool. I really wish my city had this, but it does not. And you can see some other ones right here, like the Museum of Fine Arts has the same thing. You could really see it. And again, this is called Detailed City Experience. And you can see it for different monuments, some of the bigger ones like Fenway Park and more historic areas like this one right here as well. You can see some of these buildings here in downtown Boston. If you go into Instagram and go onto somebody's profile that's verified, you might start seeing this little pop-up here that says we've updated our verified badge. And this is basically just Instagram verified or Meta verified. So Meta has now released the official, verification. You can get verified for $12 a month on your Facebook page and on Instagram, just like you can with Twitter and Twitter Blue. And I'm really curious, what do you guys think about paying for verification? Do you think it makes sense? Do you think it's just a vanity metric just to kind of show people you have money? I don't know. What do you guys think of paying for verification? I know myself, I will be paying for verification on Instagram specifically, just because I have a lot of impersonators who have stolen money from people, and Instagram just refuses to verify my profile, which is annoying. So I will be paying just so people don't get scammed out of more money. But if you don't have a fan base, if you're not a public figure, I don't really see the point, but I think it's for businesses and public figures. So I think it makes sense, but I'm really curious to see what you guys have to say about the verified badge and paying $12 a month for it. Now, here's something that's caused a lot of people to be pretty upset, and YouTube has just raised the price for YouTube TV again. So now it's $73 a month, which is up from $65 a month. So that's about $900 a year you're paying for YouTube TV. Now, I get it. It's great that you can record things and schedule things, and it's kind of just all tied in with your YouTube. It's very convenient, but we're kind of pushing it there with that price. I mean, it's almost like you may as well just go back to cable at that rate. However, they are dropping the cost of the 4K content add-on. So if you paid to have everything in 4K, that's now $10 a month instead of $20 a month. So if you have YouTube TV, are you just going to pay the additional, $8 a month, or are you going to cancel and go somewhere else? I'm really curious to see what you guys have to say about YouTube TV and their price increase. Also, this past week, Apple just started selling the Chipolo Card Spot Wallet Finder. So this is essentially a AirTag competitor, but far better and made specifically for wallets. So I guess Apple is kind of just admitting and just kind of telling you not to use an AirTag in your wallet, because it is kind of funky to have in your wallet, but this works far better, and it's $35 for one or $60 for two. Not a bad price, and it is very thin. It's like the thinness of a credit card, so it should fit in most wallets. All right, so I know that last one wasn't really iOS related, but it kind of was because it tied in with Find My. But anyways, let's move on to the latest Apple news. All right, so let's start off with some fresh iPhone 15 leaks. And we pretty much already know what the iPhone 15s are going to look like this year from a design standpoint. We've pretty much already seen everything leaked. We're kind of just waiting to see what Apple's going to do from a software standpoint. That's really where we're going to see the surprise this year. However, we do have a new leak here from Mako Takara, who shared a video of size-accurate 3D printed iPhone 15 dummy models, and they compared them to the iPhone 14. So in this video, you can see the 15, 15 Plus, and the 15 Pro and Pro Max, and the Pro models have those curved edges, the smaller bezels, and a larger rear camera housing, and it does also show that USB-C port that a lot of people are going to be hopefully excited about. I know I'm excited for it, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be some type of backlash because it's Apple. People always love to hate on something new that they do. But what's interesting is that these small changes to the chassis make the 15 and the 15 Pro models incompatible with the 14 and 14 Pro cases. However, the iPhone 15 Plus appears to fit the iPhone 14 Plus cases. So I don't think Apple's going to allow that to happen because they make so much money from accessories. But I mean, I could be wrong. I don't think it's happened before where a previous generation iPhone fits the next generation perfectly. Maybe it happened with the SE. I'm not sure off the top of my head. But according to this report here, it looks like the iPhone 15 Plus is going to be identical in terms of size, camera housing, everything to the 14 Plus. And if that's the case, I'm going to do kind of a conspiracy theory here. That could mean that this is the final year of the 15 Plus. Now, don't quote me on that. That's just my thinking, big brain thinking far ahead, but it could be the final year for the 15 Plus. It's a known fact now that the 14 Plus is not selling well. I believe the minis sold better than the Plus model, so I would not be surprised if this were the last year for the Plus, and this could be a reason why. And going back to those Pro models, the iPhone 15 Pro Max could break a record. Now, it's not a crazy record like battery life or anything like that. That'd be amazing, or like brightness or something. But it's for the smallest bezels or the thinnest bezels, as Ice Universe says on Twitter. So he's the one who reported on this information, and he does have a track record. And I guess the current kind of record for the thinnest bezel is on the Xiaomi 13 currently. So I guess the iPhone 15 Pro Max could overtake that to have even thinner bezels. And we all know that everybody hates bezels. Everybody loves to complain about big bezels on displays, on phones, whatever. So obviously it's going to be a big deal if Apple has the world's thinnest bezels on this 15 Pro Max. And I think it's going to sell pretty well if they do. However, this next rumor might make me eat my words on that last sentence, because we're now hearing, according to Jeff Poo, that the prices could be increasing this year for the first time since the iPhone 10. In his most recent research note, Jeff Poo predicts that the iPhone 15 Pro models will see a price increase due to several rumored hardware upgrades, including a titanium frame, solid-state buttons with haptic feedback from extra Taptic engines, an A17 Bionic, increased RAM, a periscope lens for increased optical zoom on the Pro Max model, and more. And a couple weeks back, we did also get another rumor claiming that prices were increasing, but it wasn't really from anybody notable. But Jeff Poo does at least have some sort of track record, so it is worth mentioning that we could see a price increase this year. And by the way, I'm talking about USD because I know there's been inflated prices all over, in different countries and everything like that, but I'm talking about USD pricing could be increasing this year. And while we're on the subject of expensive products and prices increasing, it's the perfect time to talk about Apple's Reality Pro headset. And there's been an interesting development that could honestly make or break Tim Cook's legacy. And that statement might be a little bit dramatic, but not really, because in this report from the Financial Times, it claims that Tim Cook has sided with Operations Chief Jeff Williams to release the mixed reality headset this year, despite the design team fighting against it, and it's all for his legacy. That's the reason he wants to release this early, is for his legacy, because I guess he doesn't feel like his legacy is already cemented. I think it is. I think Tim Cook already has a great legacy as it is, so I'm not sure what he's thinking here, why he thinks he needs to, cement his legacy with this headset. But, reportedly that's what's going through his head right now and why he wanted to push forward with this headset release this year. So here's a little excerpt from that report. Apple's operation team wanted to ship a version 1 product, a ski goggle-like headset that will allow users to watch immersive 3D video, perform interactive workouts, or chat with realistic avatars through a revamped FaceTime. But Apple's famed industrial design team had cautioned patience, waiting to delay until a more lightweight version of AR glasses became technically feasible. In deciding to press ahead with a debut this year, Cook has sided with operations chief Jeff Williams and overruled the early objections from Apple's designers to wait for the tech to catch up with their vision. Just a few years ago, going against the wishes of Apple's all-powerful design team would have been unthinkable, but since the departure of its longtime leader Johnny Ive in 2019, Apple's structure has been reshuffled, with design now reporting to Williams. So yeah, this is a very interesting move and a really good insight into the inner workings of Apple and kind of the direction that they're heading. And again, I've talked about this before, but I'm kind of scared for the future just because it seems like they're more focused on sales and numbers than actual, innovation and design. So it's kind of concerning. And even though the projections for this headset are not great in terms of sales, we're expecting around 1 million units. That's not great in terms of, Apple's standards. But yeah, they're not expecting to sell very many, but I think it's still a great thing that it's going to be released under Tim Cook. I think that he feels that is going to be great for his legacy. And the only way I see this kind of hurting his legacy and really honestly killing his legacy now that this story's come out is if it ships being extremely buggy and like having a ton of issues, people are having to return it and things like that. That's where I can see it kind of going wrong for Tim Cook. But, I think it's a great thing that we're seeing this year and kind of knowing that it's not going to be like the final form of the headset. All right, so now let's talk about the AirPods and some great new health features that could be coming in the next couple of years. So in Mark Gurman's latest newspaper, he was asked, will Apple turn the AirPods into a hearing aid or other type of health device? And he replied with this: Apple will upgrade the AirPods to become a health tool in the next year or two, adding the ability to get hearing data of some sort. So that's kind of a broad statement and doesn't really tell us anything super useful, but it does indicate that Apple is still working on the AirPods as more of a health monitoring system along with just playing your music and your podcast. Now, this also, goes in line with what we've heard in the past from Ming-Chi Kuo, who says that Apple has plans to add biometric health monitoring capabilities to future AirPods. And, hopefully in the future, our AirPods will be able to detect our temperature, our heart rate, and our perspiration levels, which is all coming from that sensor we heard about that could be coming to future AirPods. And then finally, remember a few episodes ago when we talked about that original iPhone 2G breaking the record at auction and selling for $63,000? Yeah, well, another one just sold this past week and it didn't sell for near as much. And what's interesting about this one, and I feel like they all have pretty interesting stories behind them, but this one was owned by an ex-Apple employee. So the listing says that he purchased this phone upon its release in 2007, but also received one through work as an Apple employee. This spare was therefore never opened. So I bet he's very happy that he never opened up that iPhone or sold it in the past, because it just sold at auction for $54,904. So that's a lot of money, but it's still 13% less than the iPhone that just sold, a few weeks ago. And it's the exact same product, an identical product. But like I said before, I think these are just going to appreciate even more because there's just a very limited number of original iPhone 2Gs that are still sealed. So I don't think a buy right now, no matter what the price is, under 75,000 is a bad buy, because we're going to look back in 10 years and be like, man, that was a steal. So there you have it. That is the latest Apple news from this past week, along with some updates on iOS 16.4 and other iOS related news. So if you enjoyed this video, as always, I would appreciate if you gave it a thumbs up. And if you want to check out more Apple Weekly episodes, make sure to click this playlist right here and you will see all of the previous Apple Weekly episodes. And of course, if you want to see the one next week, make sure you are subscribed to the channel, and I will see you guys in that episode.